What we're fighting for is very basic, but also very crucial. The binding treaty proposes, and look at how revolutionary that is, that the companies, they have their production spread in chains, right? In production chains. So you have a company that is based somewhere in the global north, and it has a piece produced somewhere in Brazil, a piece produced somewhere in South Africa. They put it all together. They make most of the profit out of it. If anything happens in any of the countries that are not the headquarter country, the people that had their rights violated, they cannot sue the company where they have their base. So that means that most of the times when you have violations, the little man or the little company or the local small and medium enterprise that is doing that tiny little part that really makes very little, accounts for very little from their profits, they are the only ones that are held responsible, if ever. What the binding treaty wants to do is to make sure that companies are liable for violations throughout their global value chains. So if any violation happens in one point, you can sue that company wherever the company has important assets or where they have their headquarters. Chevron in Ecuador, that's always the biggest example we have to give because everything is there. The company managed to pollute a big bunch of the Ecuadorian Amazon, violating plenty of human and environmental rights. The levels of cancer in Ecuador, in the region that had the oil spillage, is much, much higher, 3 times higher than the rest of the population in the same region. What happened is that the communities, they tried to go to New York, to go to the US and trial Chevron there. What happened is that the judge in the US said, well, unfortunately, it didn't happen here. It didn't happen with any of us. The violations didn't violate any US citizens' rights. So the court that should be dealing with it is the Ecuadorian one. So the Ecuadorian communities did that. They went to court. They managed to reach the Supreme Court and they got a sentence sentencing Chevron to pay billions of dollars to the communities because of their violations. But the company had left the country, leaving behind just $100 in their bank account. So this is a classical example because on top of that, after winning that award from the Supreme Court in Ecuador, the Ecuadorian government was sued by Chevron because, communities were talking bad about them. So yeah, we also had that ISDS tweak into this horrible story. Until today, the communities haven't had any kind of reparation. The most important part of the work that we do as the Binding Treaty and the Global Campaign, that is a network reuniting over 260 organizations, civil society organizations, social movements, trade unions. What we do that is more important is the work in the territories. So the campaign has autonomous regions, autonomous working groups, and the communities that are organized or organizing against corporate crimes, they get together to think together, strategize together, organize together. So if you want to be involved because you are part of a community that has been affected by any kind of corporate violation, you should reach out to the Global Campaign members. We have members in every region in most countries. You can find in our website who our members are. And you can also reach out to the campaign if there are no members there to understand how to organize and how to fight back. Because the truth is that although we don't have a binding treaty and we don't have liability, we have been fighting back and we have won many, many times. We understand that if it weren't for the Global Campaign, if it weren't for the work of social movements and trade unions against corporate power, we would be in a much, much dire situation.